starting the record and just share the screen. So they will join, no problem. There is no waiting room right now. So anyone can join anytime if he has the So the last class lecture was something like that. Let me. Can you see the screen, my student?
Yes.
Okay, nice. Okay, nice. So yesterday we have discussed a diversity example. Some of the students might not be cleared because we don't have the enough time also because of the sudden load shedding of from my side. So today we will also discuss. So I am muting all my students. Okay, if you have any problem, you can discuss in the chat box, and please give your role in the chat box. Everyone, give your role in the chat box so I can figure it out. And yes, everyone, give your role in the chat box so I can figure it out. Just the role, nothing else. Okay. So today we'll also start from a diversity factor math because mathematics is, solving mathematics in the slide is very tough. It should have a black whiteboard, then it would be very easy for our student to understand. But still, I try my best today. I have taken a new strategy. Hope that it helps. So at first, please read with me. And how many students we have total right now? Let's see. Yeah, already we have 21 students. Hope other will also join. Okay, soon. No problem. Alhamdulillah. So many students. So you see that today I hope that this example will help you so much. Okay, this 3.71 was the last one. So basically we'll start from 3.8 today. Please, my student, everything is taken in the slide. Everything is just a cut and paste from the VK Mehta book. I hope that everyone has that book, so you can also study from that book. Okay, so this slide is nothing, just cut and paste. I'm not using the book directly. That's why I cut and paste the example or mathematics and make a slide, something same, just like that. So at first, just read with me that the question was, at the end of a power distribution system, a certain feeder supplies 3 distribution transformer. You know that we know that feeder is the distribution line, because you have already studied transmission and distribution of electric power. Feeder is that electric line that is gone from substation, distribution substation. That feeder line is gone for the distribution. Okay, so a certain feeder is basically electrical line, supplies 3 distribution transformer, 3 transformer. Suppose a 3 residential zones, 3 distribution transformer, and each one supplying a group of customers. Okay, each one, that means each transformer supplies a group of customer whose connected loads are under. That means every customers or every zone's customers connected load. Connected load, we all know that what is connected load. Connected load is that every load connected in the electrical system, either you run or not, it really doesn't matter, but every load, every switches connected in the electrical system, you run or do not run, it really doesn't matter. It's just the connected in the system, inside the system. So there are some value given for transformer 1. For transformer 1, suppose it is given okay, in transformer 1 you can see that the connected load is 10 kilowatt for all the people. 10 kilowatt, that is the connected load. A demand factor is given 0.65. What does it means? We all know that demand factor is equals to maximum demand by connected load. That means that though we have connected load of 10 kilowatt, but at a single time or maximum we use 0.65. That means 65% of that. 65% of that. If we sum everyone's maximum demand, if we sum everyone's maximum demand, we get 0.65. We use basically 0.65 or 65% of that connected load, and the diversity of that group is 1.5. What does it means? When you will see the diversity factor, that means that area people are not using, that area people are not using, that area people are not using the power at the same time. That means everyone's maximum power demand is not at the same time. That's why it is the diversity factor. Diversity factor is, I'm telling everyone, there's only one, that everyone is not using its maximum power at a same time. Okay, so in this way three transformers are given, and these transformer lines are also not having the maximum power at the same time. So that's why the diversity factor among these transformer is also given. That means that suppose one transformer, the number one transformer, maximum power 10 megawatt, second is 12 megawatt, third one is 15 megawatt, but these three are not working at the same time, or not the maximum demand at the same time. Because if the maximum demand at the same time, at that time the maximum demand of that feeder will be 10 plus 12 plus 15, but as it is not at the same time, so the maximum demand on the feeder line will be less than the sum, because everyone using individually and everyone's value is using not at the same time. So when we sum everyone's maximum demand, suppose that value is 50, but as they are not using the power, the maximum demand at the same time, so the maximum demand which will appear on that electric line, the feeder line, which will be less than 50. Okay, so we need to find out the maximum load on that feeder line, so that is the question. So today we will not see the answer from here. The answer is given already. The answer is given here. You see that structure. At first, you see the structure. There is one feeder line. There is one feeder line. Okay. So from feeder line, there are three transformers. 1, 2, 3. Everyone is using that power from the feeder line, and every transformer, there are several consumers. You see that there are several consumers. An interesting thing is that these consumers are not using the power at the same time, so everyone's power consumption will not happen at the same time. I saw that, I already told that the test of using power is different from each person to each person. So today at first we will, we all know that this book solve does not give the explanation, so I have solved it for yourself in my hand, and uh, let's discuss from here. Let's make it a full screen, then which will help. Okay, I think you can see now. Yes, you can see now. You can also drag your screen to make it zoom. Okay, you can also drag your screen, just drag your screen to make it zoom. So you see that probably the question was something like that. A feeder line. At first, see that, let me change the color so it will help. A feeder line. You see that there is a feeder line here. A feeder line is here. So from that feeder line, there are three transformers, T1, T2, and T3. These three transformers are connected from that feeder line. Okay. And every transformer, suppose we take three consumers, 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. Every consumers. Every transformer, suppose we have three consumers. I will discuss for transformer 1, and the same explanation will be for transformer 2 and transformer 3 for your better explanation. So I will discuss for transformer 1. So in the example, we have already given that the transformer has a connected load of 10 kilowatt. The transformer 1 has a connected load of 10 kilowatt. What does it mean? It means that in these three consumers, they have established their electric system, all their appliances. So everyone has, suppose I have divided equally, everyone has connected 3.3 kilowatt each. So these are connected loads, not using, they are at not using the same time. These are connected loads, my students. Connected loads is they have established, they have already connected, the load already connected in the system, not running. So everyone's connected load, suppose 3.35, this 1, 2, and 3 consumers. But are they using 3.35? No, they are not using 3.35. So suppose the first consumers are using maximum 2 kilowatt. The second consumers is also using 2. The third one is also using 2.5, but their capacity is 3.35. Their connected load is 3.35, but they are using 2. This is maximum. So everyone maximum is 2 and 2.5. So if we sum this three value, 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 5, we'll get the sum of individuals maximum demand, isn't it? Because individually they have 2 and 2.5 maximum demand. Maximum demand is maximum amount of electricity they are using, the maximum amount of power they are using, maximum value. So if we sum this three value, we get 2 plus 2 plus 2.5, that is 6.5. That is 6.5. You see that? That is 6.5, something like that. Is you see that the 6.5, the summation? Please see my diagram, see my bad drawing, so you can understand. That is 6.5 IMD. That means individual maximum demand. When we sum, we get 6.5. But my question is, if these three people are using their electricity at the same time, at that time, the transformer are supplying the power, these three consumers. At that same time, the maximum demand on that transformer will be 6.5, because they are using the same time and everyone is using their power. So the maximum demand on that transformer is 6.5. But interesting thing is that the diversity factor is giving, that is 1.5. What does it means? When the diversity factor will be given, the question is saying to you that these three consumers are using the power not at the same time. They're using in the different time. So the maximum demand on that transformer will not be 6.5. Sir, what will be that? We all know that diversity factor, if we divide 6.5, by the diversity factor 1.5, we will get the maximum demand available in the transformer 1. That is basically 4.33. I think you understand. 4.33 you get the maximum demand on the transformer 1. Again, I am saying if these three consumers are using the power at the same time, the maximum demand on the transformer 1 will be 6.5, but the diversity factor is giving, so that they are not using the power same time. If we divide the diversity factor, we get this 4.33. That is the maximum demand available. That is the maximum demand available in the transformer 1. Okay. Now we can see that, sir, how we can get 6.5 kilowatt. Basically, the 10 kilowatt is given. How we can get the 6.5 kilowatt? The demand factor is given 0.65. So if we just divide the 10 kilowatt, if we just divide the 10 kilowatt, sorry, not divide, it will be multiplication. 10 kilowatt point 0.65, we will get the 6.5 kilowatt, because we know that the demand factor is equals to the maximum demand divided by the connected load. If we cross multiply the connected load into demand factor, we will get the maximum demand 6.5. But that is the sum of everyone, because the connected load is for every person. So I hope that you understand. That how we get the maximum demand on transformer 1. Okay. For transformer 1, the maximum demand is 4.33 kilowatt, because it has the diversity factor given in it. So now that you can see that the maximum demand on the transformer 1 is 4.33 kilowatt. Okay, for transformer 1. In similar process, the transformer 2 has 2.05. The transformer 3 has 7 kilowatt. In same process, every 3 transformer have this maximum demand, and every value is their individual value. So if we add these 3 value, we get the sum of individual maximum demand of the transformer, that is 13.9 kilowatt. So as I'm trying to say, if these 3 transformer are using the power at the same time, at that time the maximum demand on that feeder will be 13.9. Why? Because these 3 transformer are getting power from that feeder. So if these 3 transformer are using this power individually and they are using the power at the same time, the maximum demand will be 13.9 kilowatt. Okay, but in the question, if I'm just making the zoom, so in the question you see that the diversity factor is given. The diversity factor is given 1.3. What does it means? It means that among these 3 transformer, are not getting the maximum demand at the same time. That's why we have given a diversity factor 1.3. So when it is a 1.3 is given, we will divide this individual 13.9. We'll divide this 13.9 divided by the diversity factor is given. What is that? Is 1.3 is given. So when we will divide that, we will get the maximum demand on that feeder, that is 10 kilowatt. And basically that was the answer. The question was looking for, what is the maximum demand on that feeder line. You see that the maximum demand, if we sum, that is 13.9, but as it has a diversity factor, that means the all the transformers are not using the maximum demand power at the same time. So that's why we can divide the diversity factor 1.3 and we get the 10 kilowatt. That is the maximum demand on that feeder line. So that was the our answer. So let's get back to the our solve. I think I have drawn this diagram because of the simplicity, so that you can understand. So let's get back to our own slide. Okay. So here you can see that at first they have, you know, in the same way, whatever I have just discussed, in the same way, at first they have find out the transformer one, the maximum demand, that is, 6.5, that is 6.5 kilowatt. So when they have find out for 6.5 kilowatt for maximum demand, in the similar process, they have find out for everyone. Okay. So when they find out the maximum demand for every transformer, okay, make every transformer, they just, as the diversity factor among the all transformer is given 1.3, so they just sum all the three maximum value and divided by the diversity factor, and they get 10.3 kilowatt. Sorry, the value was 10.3, not 10, 10.3. So I think you have understand the process, the same process that you will first identify the for the transformer 1, then the transformer 2, then finally the transformer 3, then sum of their maximum demand divided by the diversity factor, you will get the maximum demand on feeder. So I am just unmuting all my students just to get back the feedback that they're getting it. So everyone is unmuted. So if you have any problem, you can ask right now. I hope you understand the process of diversity factor. My students, everyone is unmuted. Everyone is unmuted. So you can share your feedback. Is there any question? Nobody's talking. Everyone is unmuted. Hello? Is there any question? President Ahmed?
Sir.
Is there any question or you got it?
No, sir. For my side, I understood.
Is there any question? If it is okay, you can also tell that, sir, we got it. If you're not telling anything, then I am confused. What should I do?
Yes, sir, we got it.
I in a moment, just in a previous moment, I thought that everyone has just opened his Zoom account and gone other way. No, nobody's present. Just their Zoom account is on. So yes, you might get it, but try to give the feedback. Okay. Hope you understand. So I'm using again for others all. So to continue. So this was the one. So the next one, you see the next one, the next example. This will be our last example we will discuss for today. So you see that from the first read the the question. First read the question. That, sir, the question says, it has been desired to install a diesel power station. Okay, it has been desired to install a diesel power station to supply power in a suburban area having the following particles. Basically, in a suburban area, you have to build a diesel power plant. So to build a diesel power plant, okay, so how many loads are available on that area? That is given. The first one that is given is 1000 1000 houses are given, and every houses, the load is 1.5 kilowatt every house, and their demand factor is given, their diversity factor is given. So this is one type of load. The second one is there are 10 factories on that area, and their overall maximum demand is 90 kilowatt. Overall of 10 factories, 90 kilowatt. And the third load is there are 7 tube wells. There are 7 tube wells for water, and every tube wells have the capacity of 7 kilowatt, and they operate together. They operate together. Now, what should be the minimum capacity of that power station? Suppose you are an engineer, you have given this data, and you need to calculate the should be the minimum capacity for that diesel power station. The maximum is, no limit, but what should be the minimum capacity? Suppose you have less amount of money, what should be the minimum capacity to for that diesel power plant? So you have to calculate that minimum capacity. Okay, let's clear that, and we will get back here after. Let's get back to the another slide. I think you can see. So I have solved in a much more detailed way, so you can understand. So basically, these are the things that is given. You see that these are the things basically that is given. A diesel power station you need to establish. A diesel power station you need to establish. Okay, so what is the minimum capacity? The minimum capacity, you have to find out what is the minimum capacity of the diesel power station. You have 3 types of load. The first one is 1000 houses. There are 1000 houses, 1000 family on that zone, and every home is 1.5 kilowatt. Every home that is 1.5 kilowatt, and the demand factor is 0.5. The demand factor is 0.5. That means though they have connected 1.5 kilowatt, but they're not using that 1.5 kilowatt. I think that one or two students are not muted. Okay, let me mute all. They're creating a sound problem, that's why. So you see that the demand factor is 0.4. That means that though they have connected load of 1.5 kilowatt, but they are not using that power all the time. So that demand, they are not demanding 1.5 all the time. And they are also diversity factor. What does diversity factor means? Diversity factor means, sir, everyone is using their power not at the same time. Not at the same time. Everyone is not using that power not at the same time. So this is one type of load. The second type of load is there are 10 factories. There are 10 factories, and it's very easy that overall maximum demand is 90 kilowatt. So there is no hardened calculations. The total value is given 90 kilowatt, the overall maximum demand there. And there are 7 tube oils, and each power rating is 7 kilowatt, and they simultaneously working. That means they are working together at the same time. They are working together at the same time. They are working together. you need to find out the minimum capacity to diesel power station. So basically you are have one type of load, there are two types of load, there are three types of load. But interesting thing is that if these three things are working at the same time, at that time there will be no diversity factor given, but the overall diversity factor is given for you. That means these three types of loads are not working at the same time also. Among these three, the house, the factory, and the tube wells. So a diversity factor is given for 1.2. So that means these three types of load are not using at the same time. I'm telling you over and over again. So we need to find out these things. Okay. So let's discuss what is the minimum capacity. What is the minimum capacity? Suppose this is the load curve of that diesel engine. The diesel engine, this is the load curve, my students. We already know what is the load curve. Load curve is the daily load demand of a power plant. This is the load curve. Suppose you see that this is the maximum point. This is the maximum point. And I told that the maximum point of the load curve is basically the maximum demand. Maximum demand. So if we want to serve these people, we need to establish a power plant. We need to establish a power plant. The minimum capacity should be equal the maximum demand. Minimum capacity. Why? Because suppose this maximum demand is 315 kilowatt. 315 kilowatt, the maximum demand. Okay. If we are establishing the diesel power plant, that is 300 kilowatt capacity. That is 300 kilowatt. Suppose if that is 300 kilowatt, but the maximum demand is 315 kilowatt. Suppose at 6 p.m. At 6 p.m. the power consumption is 315 kilowatt, the maximum demand. So during daytime, our capacity 300 kilowatt can supply. But when the night at 6 p.m. comes, there is 15 kilowatt shortage. 15 kilowatts, there is 15 kilowatts shortage. So at that time, there should be a small area should be in the load shedding. In the load shedding. So to supply the whole area without load shedding, we need to establish the minimum capacity of that power plant should be the maximum demand. Because if the capacity is 315, at that time, when it comes at the maximum demand time at 6 p.m., there will be no load shedding because this is the minimum capacity. So it is always taken that the minimum capacity is always the maximum demand. Always remember, the minimum capacity is always the maximum demand. So that's it for this. But I will discuss one more thing, that it is not that the power station capacity should be equal the maximum demand. We should always take a reserve capacity. Okay, reserve capacity. So you always take the capacity a higher. Suppose the plant capacity now 500 kilowatt. Okay, so the maximum demand is 315 kilowatt. So the difference is basically the reserve capacity for the future. Okay, this is not required for this example, but I just discussed that the plant capacity is always greater than the maximum demand. It's a good practice because there should have some reserve capacity for the future expansion, because there should some other loads included in the future. So you already understood that we need to find out the maximum demand of that zone. If we get the maximum demand of that zone, that will be the minimum capacity of that power station. Hope you understand. So let's go. We need to find out the maximum demand. So how we will get the maximum demand? The maximum demand of that diesel power plant will be, if we get everyone's maximum demand, the domestic maximum demand, the factory maximum demand, and the tube oil maximum demand. And as the diversity factor is given, we will divide the diversity factor, that is 1.2, that is given. Okay, so diversity factor is given, so we need to find out the domestic maximum demand, the factory maximum demand, and the tube well maximum demand. If the diversity factor is not given, then that will be the sum of this, but the diversity factor is given in our example. So let's find out everyone's maximum demand. Okay, everyone's maximum demand, let's find out. So at first, domestic maximum demand. If you remember properly, from the example, there are 1000 house, there are 1000 house, and every house has a connected load of 1.5. So the total connected loads will be, if we multiply 1.5, we get 1500 kilowatt. That is total connected load. Every individual person's connected load will be, if we sum, we get 1500 kilowatt. But the demand factor is only 0.4. Basically, they are using, they use maximum 40% of this power. 40%, only 40%. So we know that this 1500 is the every individual connected load. So if we divide it by the demand factor, we will get the domestic sum of maximum demand for all houses, everyone's maximum demand, all houses. Okay, everyone. So that is 600 kilowatt. That is 600 kilowatt. Their connected load is 1500, but they are using 600 kilowatt maximum, because their demand factor is only 0.4. Only 40% they are demanding maximum. But the diversity factor is also given. The diversity factor is also given. That means every house is not using the power at the same time. Every house that is not using the power at the same time, that's why the overall maximum demand of will be divided by the diversity factor 6.5. That will be 240. That will be 240. So you see that their demand, their connected load is 1500, but their maximum using 600. But that at a single time from household, the maximum demand is only 240 kilowatt. So we got that the domestic maximum demand is 240 kilowatt. Okay, we got that for the first value. Okay, let's go for the next. Now the factory maximum demand. Interesting thing is that in the for the factory, in the question, it is already given that all the factories overall maximum demand is 90 kilowatts. So it is not required any calculation. It is already given. It is already given. Okay. Okay, sorry, I have missed the tubal. I have missed the tubal. So for the tubal purpose, the second load said that there are 7 tube wells. Everyone has 7 kilowatts, and they're working together. As they are working together, so that means that they're working together. So everyone using 7 kilowatt. So the maximum demand for the tubal will be 7 into 7. It is 49 kilowatt. So the tubal maximum demand will be 49 kilowatt, because they are working together. There's not that they're working in the different time. They're working together. So everyone is using 7 kilowatt. So 7 tubals, 7 into 7, 49 kilowatt. So let's go back. So we get everyone's maximum demand. Everyone's maximum demand for the household, that is 240, for factory that is 90, and for tubal for that is 49. So basically that is 379 kilowatt. But interestingly, if they are using this power at the same time, the maximum demand of that power station will be 379. But they are not using the power at the same time, because they have the diversity factor of 1.2. So if we divide by 1.2, if we divide by the 1.2, basically we will get the value 316. 316, that is the maximum demand of that diesel power plant. So to cope up the maximum demand of the diesel power plant, we should have established the minimum capacity will be the 316 kilowatt. So that was the solve for that example. That was required. We need to establish minimum 316 kilowatt diesel power plant to supply the power of that three types of load that is mentioned in the example. So I have solved in much more detailed way. Hope you understand. Uh, so that was for today. That was for today. So I'm just stopping the share. I'm just stopping the share, and and I'm just unmuting all my students. Unmuting all my students. Uh, where is okay? Where is the participant? Yes, there is a participant. I'm unmuting all my students. The students, everyone is unmuted. I think that you got the idea much more clear today. The diversity factor. I'm asking the feedback. I think that everyone has got the much more clear idea today. Is there any question?
No, sir.
Is there any question? Probably not. So, I will supply the video lecture and that hand notes as soon as possible. I finish that class. So you study. You keep study. You try to practice the. My God. Okay, I'm muting all because some of the students are creating noise. So I will supply the class lecture as soon as possible, and also the video lecture. So you please try to solve that mathematics by your hand. I'm requesting, because as we are not in the current situation, so try to practice. So we'll in the next class we will start the next topic. Okay, so that's it for today. I am stopping my